20 to 5, occupational therapists are at breaking points. An NDIS crisis is hitting, and it's not just the wait lists that you might be on yourself at the moment to see an OT, but for the occupational therapists themselves. Today marks the start of new NDIS pricing that is set to throw the disability services into crisis. To tell you more, Chris Pearce is OT Services Group Managing Director. Hi there, Chris.
Hi, Ollie. Afternoon. How are you?
I'm all right, Chris, but this is a bit of a double blow, isn't it, today for occupational therapy services?
Well, yeah, it's a hard day. I think we're trying to stay positive and trying to look at how we can adapt and accommodate. But year to year, it's becoming increasingly difficult to continue to provide NDIS, community-based NDIS services, which as an occupational therapist is what we do. And that's how we achieve our outcomes with people.
So it's the sixth rate freeze. You've had no increase since 2019, and the travel reimbursement has been slashed by 50% from today. Will that mean that some people who might be living a little bit further away, Chris, might not get the help that they had yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely. We were told 2 weeks ago that we would be experiencing cuts to our pricing, which has remained the same for the last 6 to 7 years, and that they wouldn't consider a change for the next 2 years. It's virtually impossible to continue to match all of the increasing costs, rent, overheads, fuel, wages. So as a service, we're having to look at ways that we can continue to remain sustainable. And for us, and given the nature of the changes, what that means is that we've got to wind back on the community-based services that we're providing, which, as I said, is what we do. That's where people are sort of doing their occupations, and that's how we're achieving goals. We, as a clinic, we cover 7 regions of Western Australia. We go all the way up to Geraldton, out to Kalgoorlie, down to Busselton. A couple of weeks ago, we were in Geraldton providing 2 therapists at Geraldton providing a bunch of specialty services to the region, which aren't available at the moment by any local therapists.
Yep.
I think we made about $200 out of that visit. We try to provide those services at break even at the moment because we've been accommodating and adapting to no price rise, for 6 years. And so now we've had to pause on our regional trip that we had planned this month to Kalgoorlie.
And then those people miss out, but you're not alone. 93% of OTs who complete the Occupational Therapy Australia survey say they'll have to reduce travel and community services. 61% plan to cut those remote and regional services. So it's not just in WA, it's Australia-wide. And 96% say changes will reduce client access, affecting about 4,500 people with disabilities. But Chris, what else can you do?
Yeah, it's really difficult, and I think everybody has. We've only been given sort of 2 weeks to sort of even understand and then introduce changes to try and accommodate. But what we're seeing today is a lot of people announcing service cutbacks, announcing service closures, which will be devastating for the participants of the NDIS. As you said in your intro, we all already have really long wait lists. We can't meet the demand of the community at the moment. Some of our services have a wait list of up to 3 months. And so, if we're having to wind back and restrict the services that we're doing, we're going to see the quality of the services reduce, and we're going to see the timeframes with which we can work with people reduce.
So that's also going to mean for a lot of these businesses that are operating in the space to remain profitable under the new structure. There's only 16% of OT practices expect to be able to do that. Occupational therapists aren't going to be able to offer these services, Chris, to NDIS clients. It's just not going to be something that you're able to do. So nobody wins here, Chris, and people might be out of work as well.
Yeah, another thing, we've got OTs leaving the profession at more than twice the normal rate at the moment, and that was prior to these changes being announced. As a service provider ourselves, we're having to shift some of our staffing into other funding schemes to remain sustainable, and we'll have to wind back on some of the NDIS services that we provide. We were part of the trial sites of the NDIS, and it's part of our organisation. We love working with NDIS participants, but unfortunately, we've had no consultation or no input into the types of changes that have been announced, and so there's just no way that some providers or some services can remain even sustainable. Before these changes, I think about 35% of providers were running in the red, and another 20% were just at break even. That's more than 50% of the market. And then not to get a CPI increase and to get a cut in the travel rate, which is our access to the community and how we work with people, it's the final straw for a lot of service providers.
So, Chris, will there be any about turn on this by the federal government, or is it now done? They've got to live with the consequences and see what falls apart.
Yeah, and I think we don't know. I think the whole OT community was holding their breath up until call of business yesterday, hoping that some sort of freeze to the changes would be announced, even to allow consultation with the participants of the scheme. There's been no consultation even with the people with lived experience, and then our professional peak bodies to allow us to have input. We want to achieve a sustainable scheme as well. We have lots of ideas and input to provide as to how the current scheme could be more sustainable for the government. However, they continue just to make really big, bold decisions.
Yeah.
With the cost. We're a small practice. We've got about 35 clinicians working with us.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks' notice is going to cost us just to pivot our services to accommodate the change. Even having more time to adapt and accommodate the changes would help. I guess we were all just kind of expecting, at least at the very minimum, the sort of prices to stay the same as they have done for the last 6 years.
We'll see what happens, Chris. Thanks for having a chat to us today and bringing it to our attention.
Thanks, Ollie. Thanks for your interest.
Hi,